Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber. Welcome back. This is your Amac podcast, Better for America. You know, if you're not getting your political news from Amac, then you won't be informed about American politics. And that's a fact. You're not really informed about American politics unless you visit amac.us or download the Amac News app. It's free, and join over 2.4 million patriotic Americans and stay informed. We offer the truth in news. And you're really not going to find that news anywhere else. That's why you need to hit that subscribe button, like, follow, and share wherever you are on social media so that more and more people can learn about amac.us. Now, today, Amacers, we have with us two inspiring voices representing a special book series called Heroes of Liberty. And I just love these books. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. I've read a bunch of them just last night. Really, really enjoy these books. We're going to learn more about why they're so important. But what I really love even more is that this is really a remarkable effort to educate young Americans, and that's why I'm real excited to have with us today Tal Heinrich and Bethany Mandel. These are two wonderful ladies to talk more about the importance of educating our youth and to share with you these beautiful books. Because isn't it so important really to read and share stories with the next generation? We here at AMAC believe that that is so important, and that's why AMAC members will enjoy special savings if you decide you want to buy these books, which I've done. They're fabulous. I can't wait to sit with my 4-year-old granddaughter and read these books. Here's what I can tell you. These books signify the importance and truth of America. And what perfect timing, really, especially as we're witnessing the public education system disappointing so many parents. We're seeing things like patriotism slip through the cracks of the modern-day classroom. These stories from Heroes of Liberty are full of quality entertainment for children and adolescents, and they really paint a picture of who we are, what we stand for, and why we should be proud of our country. It's a book series that's really fighting to keep the truth alive. And so if you're an AMAC member, you can go online now. You can go to amac.us/heroes-of-liberty.com. We'll put that up on the screen for you, but you will get an exclusive membership offer of up to 55% off. And these books, they really are just so beautifully illustrated for any child or grandchild in your life. The stories celebrate voices and values like liberty, justice, hard work, self-reliance, courage, and faith, and our community. And at the heart, they really do celebrate America. Tal Heinrich and Bethany Mandel are two women who are proud to represent Heroes of Liberty. Beth and Tal, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having us.
We are thrilled. I mean, you can see my passion. I love this whole concept of these stories and taking the truth. I do want to start with you, Beth, first. I know that you have spoken publicly about the abundance of biographies that you've seen within children's sections of bookstores, and a lot of these are primarily on Democratic individuals, and you've said that it's rare to ever find books about iconic conservative leaders within these children's sections of bookstores. Would you say that this was perhaps one of the motivators for you to get involved at Heroes of Liberty? And can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired this remarkable effort to educate young Americans?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a mom of 5 and we homeschool. And I'm always sort of walking into the library and into bookstores looking for books because I have found, both for myself personally and for my children, that the best way that they learn history is by forming personal connections with individuals and then kind of learning about the time period in which they lived and the events that they experienced or participated in via that person. And so, we've learned about the Revolutionary War via George Washington, Alexander Hamilton. Even from the British side, there's a great book called George versus George about George Washington and King George. And so, sort of scooching more towards modern times, I wanted to find figures that I personally admire and I want my children to know about, like Winston Churchill, like Ronald Reagan, like Margaret Thatcher. And and also sort of on more the entertainment side, like John Wayne. And it was really frustrating that there were basically no books on the market that had those individuals. And then on the other side, we have 3 boys, and we want to teach them the values of manhood and honor and of behaving in a way that is upright. And that kind of messaging is non-existent in children's literature now. We've decided as a society, not us, but it's been decided for us that masculinity is toxic. And so that message has seeped into children's literature that is directed for boys. But most children's literature now is written for girls. And I have 2 girls. And the message that is out there for girls does not include the importance of motherhood and family. It's very careerism. It's very driven in that way. And so, I found my daughter reading books about incredible people like Marie Curie. And she asked me, did she have kids? It's not in here. I want to know more about her personal life. And I found myself sort of having to Google, well, yeah, that person did have kids, but we don't hear about it ever. We talk a lot about the fertility crisis and the marriage crisis, and this has something to do with it. This absolute dearth of messaging that is within all children's entertainment, not just literature, about the importance of family and about the importance of children. And so, when we started choosing heroes, we had both of these things in mind, that we wanted to expose our children to these incredible figures, but also we wanted to expose them to these ideas that have become absolutely absent within the children's literature space.
That is really, really interesting to hear it, to hear you lay it out that way. And so many of our AMAC members, these things matter. They care so deeply. A major area that AMAC members wanted us to focus on was to push back against critical race theory and these terrible teachings that really divides our youngsters based on the color of their skin and how they look, not on the content of their characters. So to come up with this beautiful, first of all, the way that these books are illustrated, the colors, everything about them, the pictures, they're absolutely beautiful. This one on Alexander Hamilton. I can't wait to sit with my young ones. There you go, another gorgeous picture. What a beautiful, beautiful book on. We've got Thomas Sowell, we've got John Wayne. This one was fabulous. I know you've got dozens and dozens. Here's Ronald Reagan. But these are perfect. They're really, really great. You've laid them out so well. Amy Coney Barrett. I really appreciate that. I do want to turn to Tal quickly, who has quite a unique background. Tal, you were born in Israel, and you are a journalist and an expert on foreign affairs. I'm sorry?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
I'm
and an
American by
expert.
spirit, not by passport, not by nationality, by ideology, I would say.
That's really great, though, but an expert on foreign affairs, specializing in the Middle East. And so with that said, could you share a little bit of what your personal motivation, maybe more about your own family experiences and maybe those deeper convictions or motivations that brought you to be such an advocate for telling stories of value to children? Why have you found such great importance in this series? And perhaps maybe you can touch on one of your favorite stories.
So just to follow up on the point that you made before with the illustrations, before I begin talking about myself, I'll just say that it's not only, the variety of books and, figures that you see on current bookshelves, as Bethany described, it's also the quality. You don't see children's books with such illustrations. I mean, unfortunately, good for us, but unfortunately for the kids, you don't see such level of storytelling. You see preaching. And we do not preach. Our books at Heroes of Liberty, they treat children as children who want to hear a story, and a good story, a story that makes them feel good, that makes them confident, not a story about rage and and about being vindicative and all these. When did rage become an American value? I swear, Bethany, you have the children. That's what you see all over. And now to your question, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right? That's what brought me here. And as I said, I'm American by ideology. And as a foreigner, it is so important that this country, especially that the next generations, will preserve what made this country so great. That, if Americans aren't proud, if young Americans, I would say, are not proud to be Americans, then who do we have to look up to as people from overseas, as myself? So it's a bit frustrating to come here and see, sometimes foreigners appreciate things from a different perspective, because we don't have this. Not that my country isn't great, my country is amazing, but I'm just saying, there's something to aspire to when you look up to America and what made this country the country that it is. And if Americans forget their history, if they are ashamed of it, they're not proud of it, if young Americans are, apologetic about everything from their own personality, their own nature, and, their society, then what does the world have to say? What can we aspire to be? So I think these books are it's a very important storytelling project, and it touches hearts.
It really does. Thank you, Tal. I just love that, and I think it's so important. Maybe I could ask both of you to offer a bit of perspective on where American education is going today. Where should American education be going, and where do you think we might be off track? Because I do know that these books could help. They could really help in like a way to jumpstart, right? To give people, youngsters, these wonderful stories and reasons to aspire, right? And have hope, because so many of these stories are all full of hope, and they get us thinking harder about the history of our great nation and the importance of stories that help us recognize our own historic greatness. So maybe, Beth, let me start with you and then Tal. But where do you think, Beth, you said you homeschool your children. What's happening in American education, and where do you think, how far off track are we? What do we need to do to get back on track?
Yeah, it's not good. Things are not going great. And there's a lot of components to that. The COVID crisis in particular turned a public education system that was already really struggling to churn out kids who were ready for the real world. And then it set them back at least 2 years. Zoom school, distance learning was not school. And so we're seeing test scores for children just absolutely plummet. And also their emotional sort of well-being has taken a really significant hit as well with how we responded to COVID. I don't think it was because of COVID, it was how we responded to COVID. But the other component that you sort of touched on before, something that your members are concerned about, CRT is impacting education as well, and it's impacting it in a number of ways. It's telling kids that they are victims, but it's also taking away really valuable instruction time away from reading and writing, all the R's. And so one of the things that we focused on within our Thomas Sowell book was to push back against that kind of messaging. We wanted to show kids incredibly successful, incredibly accomplished African American who would not sort of subscribe himself to all of that messaging. And he had a student in one, there's a sort of vignette in part of that book about a student who was really struggling, and he had to decide, do I just pass her, or do I help her get a grade, even if it's not a good grade? And he decided, she's going to be going back to her country, and I would be doing her a disservice if I just give her a passing grade. And that's something that's happening in our school systems now, that teachers are just passing kids, even though they don't deserve it. And it ends up being a real disservice to them, because then they're in 8th grade and they're reading at a 2nd grade level. And that sounds hyperbolic, but that's actually happening in school systems. In Baltimore, which is right near where I live, there are children in high school who are not literate. They are not reading at anywhere close to a middle school or high school level. They're barely reading, if that, at a primary school level. And so this is sort of the state of American education, and American parents really need to sort of, no matter how they're choosing to educate their children, if it's a charter school, homeschool, public school, private school, they really have to make sure that they're on top of their child's education. I'm a very, very strong believer in the power of reading out loud. There's an incredible book on that power by a man named Jim Trelease, and it's called the Read Aloud Handbook. There's another great book by Sarah Mackenzie called The Read Aloud Family. There's a lot of these books in this genre, and they all basically talk about the science of why reading out loud is so powerful. And also they give suggested reading materials. And our books are written for children that are not dumbed down. They are challenging, incredible reads, and they are really kind of a throwback vintage thinking on children's literature. If you pick up a book now that's for a child, fourth or fifth grade, it's not very well written. The prose is not challenging. The vocabulary is not challenging. But if you pick up, one of my favorite examples is Peter Pan. If you look at the original Peter Pan in book form, not the movie, the prose is challenging even to me as an adult. The same with A.M. Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables. It's challenging, and children can handle that. They just need to be trusted to handle that. And so that's the philosophy that we have with how we write these books. We write them in a way that is challenging and draws kids in and doesn't treat them like idiots. They can handle it, and they love them. We've heard that from a lot of families.
Yeah, they really are wonderful. I enjoyed reading them. It didn't feel, I really do, it really, and I mean that sincerely. I wish our listeners could touch these books. I wish they could feel them, the paper on this book. I mean, this is a series of books that I have a bookshelf, and I want to line my bookshelf with these books. But the paper is beautiful. The paper is just beautiful. The cover, the hard cover of the book, it's gorgeous. The way that it's bound, the lettering on the binding, it's just beautiful. You want to see these books lined up on your bookshelf. You want the young people that come to your home, boy, they'll have fun looking through these, as well as adults. It's no joke. These are books that I honestly, for me, when I have a cup of coffee on a Sunday morning or a Saturday afternoon, I would love to have one of these right there on my lap. That's how I'm going to read them, share them with my grandkids. I really appreciate this. You're just both so really thoughtful of the future of our country. And speaking of the future, how do you feel about this notion of being silenced on the internet? Maybe let me turn that one to Tal. Running a business really is a full-time effort, Beth and Tal, and we know that a lot of us here at Amac, we rely on digital advertising to promote, who we are and what we do. But just a few days ago, I saw that Heroes of Liberty posted on social media saying that Twitter is refusing to allow you to promote your books or your campaign. And they're saying that it doesn't meet their guidelines. Now, what part of teaching your children American values, teaching children truth and history, violates Twitter's guidelines? Can either of you elaborate on this? Have you seen this happen before?
We've had it with Facebook before.
Okay.
We've had it with Facebook that locked our ads account, and then many people from, Democrats and Republicans, I would say, came out and showed support on Twitter, and eventually the account was restored. But it happened right before Christmas, which really also affected sales. And no good reason, just like Twitter, right now, no good reason for, doing that. Bethany, do you know something that I don't know about any development in that realm?
No, so I mean, it's interesting to see sort of how the left thinks about our message of faith and freedom. We took this opportunity in the last week to sort of cheer America and cheer the principles that our country was built on, faith and freedom being the name of the bundle that we're selling. And Twitter decided that that was against their guidelines, presumably that it was political in nature. What's interesting is that Twitter thinks that promoting the ideas of patriotism and faith and freedom is political campaigning.
There's nothing politically explicit about the wording of this campaign. I'll just say it's, it's their interpretation of these American values. And I will just pick it up from where Bethany left it, because speaking of censorship, this is, and the school system, this is one of the things that really, really bothered us, because children nowadays are afraid to speak their mind. And we have one book that addresses just that, about Rush Limbaugh. It's exactly the point. The school system, I don't know, educates or wires children nowadays to, celebrate conformity and and staying in your lane, and the new courage is just to conform and be one of the group, and never speak your mind, never stand on your own. And our book of Rush Limbaugh and the First Amendment, that's how it's called, it gives children the confidence that they need to be free to speak their mind, because you're never free if you're not able to speak your mind. This is how Rush believed things should be. And through his personal journey and his personal courage, children, can look up to him as a role model in that sense. And you can also speak your mind and be wrong, by the way. You can say something that is wrong, and you can learn, and you can change your mind, and it's okay. And this is one of the things that children nowadays, it's unbelievable that it's happening in America, honestly.
It really is, Tal. I mean, I can't believe it. The things that we see and hear are shocking. That right here in America, we're being silenced. And patriotic businesses, organizations like Amac that stand for values like faith, family, and freedom. We love our Constitution. We love our Bill of Rights. We understand that our rights are given to us by God, not by government. Those rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And, we love our freedoms and our freedom of speech, and to be silenced and to be attacked because we stand for the greatness in America and these wonderful heroes is, it's evil. And it seems that there must be an enemy within, or an enemy that's has infiltrated America and is pulling the strings. Because this is, we've changed so much. Just in a decade, America has changed so much, and we're certainly looking so different than we did even a year and a half ago with the leadership that we have today. So this is why it's all the more important that you're doing this work and that you're getting these books out. Tal and Beth, you're both just, again, so passionate. So this is exactly why AMAC fights and what we fight for. I do want to ask both of you, what are the dreams that you have for Heroes of Liberty? And what is your hope for the impact that these books might have on young Americans? Because we all share the same concern that generations to come, if we continue down the road in public education that we're headed, they won't be told the truth. And I'm also reminded often by Ronald Reagan. He was very much like my own father, Dan Weber, who always said that we have to have faith and teach what we have learned. And we've got to teach those to people who follow us, or it will be lost, right? So how do you see these books? If you were to hope and predict what you might wish your efforts will bring to young Americans ahead. Either one of you, please.
I can be short. I can just, I'll just say that I hope that every American kid would know the stories that we tell and would be inspired by them. These are books that every American kid should have on his or her bookshelf. And on a personal note, I love Thomas Sowell. And as a foreigner, reading about him at the Tel Aviv University where I was pretty shocked that, Americans my age don't even know Thomas Sowell. So I'll just say Thomas Sowell is a national treasure. Every American kid should learn about his work.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me when I talk to parents about our books. Sometimes, even from conservative parents, I get a blank stare when I say his name. And I'm like, this is a great opportunity for you to learn more about him as well. And then go get his books that are written for adults, because it's a great window, not just for kids, but also for adults. But one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite Reagan quote, is freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. That is why we do it, because we are no more than one generation away from extinction. And we are making sure that doesn't happen. I heard from a parent recently that their kid, for their end of year school project, had to choose a hero, and they chose Margaret Thatcher. And she had never heard of Margaret Thatcher before our book came in the mail, and then she got the subscription and the book came, and she wanted to know everything about Margaret Thatcher. And one of the things that I love about our books is that they're a great sort of introduction for kids and parents about these figures, and for them to go down rabbit holes if they want to go down rabbit holes. And so, I heard from another family, their kid wanted to watch all the John Wayne movies after we sent them a John Wayne book. And I'm hoping one of our future books that's coming out next is about Mark Twain. And this is my personal family plan, and I hope it becomes other people's plan, that they read about Mark Twain and then they say, let's sit down and read Huck Finn together. And let's sit down and just go through his volumes of books, which are so incredible. And so, that's my hope, that we pass on not just our values, but also the things that make America great, our great cinema, our great books. And, there's so much that we need to teach our kids that it's not happening via osmosis in schools and through literature and movies anymore. We really have to be very intentional in what we present to our children. And we have that in mind when we're choosing these heroes. We want to introduce them to cinema, to literature, to political figures. It really runs the gamut. And so that's what I'm hoping that families sort of take away from our books, is that they are just one piece of their child's education, but that they are a beautiful, amazing, inspiring introduction to the literature, to the cinema, to the political figures, and to these ideas that we want our children to carry forward into their adult years. And they are the future of America, and we have to take that role really seriously.
Oh, Beth and Tal, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today. It has really been a tremendous honor, and I love that you're taking action. So many of us have hopes and dreams and wishes, and here you are really, taking action and delivering something that we can touch, read, remember, and share with our family, our friends, and generations to come. It's something you can leave behind. So these books are just beautiful, encouraging all of our AMACers. Go to amac.us, click on member benefits. You'll see it there. We have a member benefits section of our website, but certainly you'll find it right there, amac.us, for a nice discount. The books are beautiful. I can't wait to order more. Now, can you explain to us, how does it work? Can you buy them in a series like this, a packet of 5 or 10? Do you sign up to have them mailed to you as new ones are published? How does it work?
Well, we offer different exclusive offers to AMAC members. So when you check, on the AMAC website, you can see the different offers that we have. We have special bundles, we have individual books and special prices, discounted prices, and we also have our subscription. And with the subscription, you can get your Hero of Liberty delivered every month to your door, or your grandchildren's, or your children's door. So every month we come up with a new book, every month a new book, and it's same quality, amazing quality, amazing illustrations. Each book has its own style, so it's not something that's repetitive or boring in any way. It's exciting. Once children get our book, they will wait for the next one to arrive in the mail.
That is so great, and you're really, really exciting. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been an honor, and again, an inspiration. We really, really appreciate having you here with us, and we love your initiative. We want to reclaim the future and educate younger Americans, and really instill values that help make this nation the wonderful place that it is.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you. And to all of you listening out there, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't downloaded the Amac News app, you can watch and listen to this podcast and track breaking news right there on your cell phone. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like, follow, and share wherever you are on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thank you for joining us. God bless you, and have a great day, everyone.
You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by Amac, the Association of Mature American Citizens. To learn more about Amac and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.